friends, and welcome back. So it's been a while since I last uploaded my last video. However, that's been for good reason, as I'm actually 27 weeks pregnant right now. So a lot has been changing in my world, and it's honestly a bit funny. If you watched a video a while back, I shared that I was taking a step towards my hand embroidery business and trying to work at that to make some more money, as I took a step back from my day job, instead of working 5 days a week to working 4 days a week. But since doing that, basically that timeline pretty much lined up perfectly with when I got pregnant, and so I honestly have not used that 4th day really towards working towards my business, but rather instead surviving this pregnancy with the first trimester nausea and vomiting. And then now I feel like I'm on to a new struggle, as next week I'm going to be entering the 3rd trimester. And basically I'm really having a hard time fitting into any of my clothes, and it's been quite difficult with my workplace. In my 9 to 5, I work as a business administrative assistant, and I have to wear business casual clothes, and basically my work pants don't fit, so I've been thrifting and trying to find some skirts and dresses to work, as the maternity sections in stores just feel a bit hopeless and there's no selection there. And then I'm already have a hard time fitting into pants as it is, alone, because I'm just so petite. I'm 5'1", so petite plus maternity just adds a whole giant struggle to the mix. And so in attempt to solve my problem, I have resorted to trying to sew my own skirts. So this is my very first attempt. I will say I am a pretty beginner sewist. I only inherited this sewing machine a couple of years ago and have made just a few basic projects like scrunchies, a pillowcase, and some dish towels. So this is kind of me amping things up and trying to sew more. So I just watched a 30-minute little tutorial on how to make a 30-minute skirt, and so that's what I'm attempting in this video. And I just kind of took note of what this woman said to do, so that I could try and stitch this myself. And I'll go ahead and link the YouTube tutorial that I watched below, because I think it was very good and informative, and I feel like I did have success from this girl's tutorial. I will say my skirt turned out definitely not perfect, nor are any of my other previous projects, since I am such a beginner. I still have questions about sewing, but we're working with it. So these are the fabrics I picked up from Fabricland, and the idea behind them was to do the 2 patterned fabric as the exterior and then the 2 solid colors as the interiors, just to make sure you couldn't see through the skirt. I actually didn't end up needing the black interior one because this fabric was dark enough that you couldn't see through it. So for this first skirt, I'm just kind of excluding that, making it a bit more of a simpler project to get started with. But I really love this fabric and the colors that's involved, and then also just the floral pattern. I think it's really beautiful. And also I got this fabric, I only needed a meter since I am more petite. I was able to work with a smaller piece of fabric, which I honestly didn't really know how much I needed. I didn't do any measurements before. I was just winging this project, and I just bought a meter. And this fabric pattern, the 2 pattern ones, happened to be on sale for $6 a meter. So I was really pleased with that, as I'm a big fan of thrifting. I'm a big fan of saving money and not spending money. And a $6 skirt is oh my goodness, that is such a good deal. So I'm super proud. And even after finishing this project, I still had leftover fabric, which seems pretty crazy and such a good deal for what I got. I remember whenever I first applied to this business administrative job, I didn't have any business casual clothes, and so I went to Old Navy to find something to wear for my interview, and I ended up getting a nice shirt, and it cost me $45 Canadian, which it just made me sick to spend that much money, just because I feel like that's such a ridiculous price, when in reality I could have just sewed myself up a skirt and worn a nice shirt for only $6. So I super love that this project is so cheap and budget friendly, and customizable, because I am making this skirt myself. Since I am so petite, I often have a hard time with dresses or skirts not sitting at the proper waistline or being way too long and way past my kneecaps. So sewing it really gave me the ability to customize it and make it just the perfect length, which I super love. One thing I really appreciate about learning new things or a new craft or a new skill like sewing is that you can build off of the previous projects you've done. So I've simply learned just by watching some YouTube videos, and I've already YouTubed and created some scrunchies. So this skirt to me kind of felt like how I've also already made some dishcloth, so it felt like I'm kind of making a dishcloth with a scrunchie at the top. As for the top of this skirt, I created a tube and then ran an elastic piece through it and sewed that elastic together. So it's essentially like a giant scrunchie at the top, which I already knew how to make, and so I'm just building on top of that block, and then further in the future I'll be able to build on top of this project. So here is what we are looking like. It looks like it's working, but also at this point, sometimes I just have a really hard time with clothing, and I think I hadn't measured the length yet, so I was feeling a little discouraged of oh no, this isn't gonna turn out right. Wasn't feeling the most pleased, so I decided to take a step back, and I asked my dog Nova if she wanted to go for a walk, and of course she is always down for that. So we took a little break, we took a little breather, and we went out for a little stroll. Today was such a nice day. It was actually 70 degrees Fahrenheit. I am American, so I haven't quite learned the Canadian Celsius way yet, but regardless, it was beautiful. So we went out and got some fresh air, which was definitely a big help for this project. And whenever we came back, I was feeling much better, and I think we just needed a little breather. Whenever I got back, I picked up where I left off, which was with the length. It was being too long, feeling like it wasn't looking good. So I actually, instead of going with my measurement because it was way too long, I just measured based off of a dress that I liked the length of, and cut it down to size. At this point, I was a bit nervous that I cut off way too much because it looked so short, but it actually ended up being the perfect length, so I should have not worried and just trusted that that other dress was the perfect size and work with that. In retrospect, I do feel bad for over cutting my fabric, because I could have left that piece attached to the other piece and probably have made a shirt from that, but I still think I can kind of connect those two pieces and make a different type of shirt with a ruffle top that I have. I definitely want to try that in the future. I have attempted cloning one of my shirts before. I will say I didn't complete it because it ended up being too tedious and hard, so I would like to try a more beginner friendly cloning of my clothes. So if you want to stay tuned for that, I definitely plan on making some more clothing as I navigate this maternity struggle bus. And here is my final product. I honestly think it turned out so good for being my first attempt at a skirt ever. It's definitely not perfect by any means, and there's some parts that probably need some help, like my seams and just not having the cleanest stitches. There's even like one part at the top that I didn't really fully complete. But here's just some of my different outfit ideas that I'm going to be able to work and kind of pair with a couple different outfits. This is one of my favorite hacks. Like, this is my favorite sweater ever, but it is tunic length, and I don't want to cut it because sometimes I do wear it with leggings to cover my bum. But other times, like, I want it to go above that waistline, just because it's such a nice sweater. And so what I do is I put an elastic headband on over my waist, and then I just roll up the sweater twice and I tuck it into that headband so it holds it in place really well. It holds it all day. And then I also tuck in the back, and I kind of tuck that once into the top of the headband in the back, and I think it lays really nicely, and it goes perfect with this skirt. So that's just like another outfit idea that I really like. And then here's just trying it on with a couple different colors, like the cream sweater or a black cardigan. And with this cardigan too, like if I want to kind of accentuate, I guess, my bump or bring it up to that waistline, I'm just gonna tuck it into that headband to hold it in place, and then that allows kind of me to dress my bump, I guess, as they say. But I think all these outfits would look so cute, and I'm sure there's a couple more outfits I could pull out of my closet. Also, sorry, I feel like my lighting turned to garbage kind of here, but I'm honestly really pleased with how this skirt turned out, and I do plan on making some more that will help me survive this maternity season and these next 3 months, as I'll be working up until my due date. Thank you guys so much for joining me. This was a very much so beginner project. I'm sure you saw lots in this video that maybe I did wrong. I know I used kitchen scissors, and I feel like every time I try and wind a new bobbin, it ends up turning into this tangled mess. And so I'm definitely just figuring things out as I'm going. I don't have a rotary cutter or like a cutting mat. I'm just working with what I got, and I hope that encourages you to start with wherever you're at, because I'm honestly such a beginner but was able to make this piece that I love.